Hello everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Dayspring Discussions. I'm your host, Sean McGahee, and this is a show where we talk about movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books. If you geek out about it, we're going to talk about it. You can find me on the Facebook group and on Twitter, and also dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com. You can also listen to Dayspring Discussions on iTunes, Podomatic, YouTube, and Patreon, guys. Well, happy Thursday. It is Justice League Day, guys, because it is the day that Justice League comes out in theaters. The whole public can see it now. According to Rotten Tomatoes, it might not be such a good thing, but I am still trying to be optimistic nonetheless. There's a huge controversy surrounding this film as far as DC films and how audiences respond to them. Some people think it's a conspiracy. I don't know, but I'm looking forward to going and seeing it despite what Rotten Tomatoes and other people have said. It's a film that I've waited my whole life for. I've gotten psyched up for it this last week. Yesterday, and I watched Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. Of course, the ultimate cut. Don't watch the theatrical cut. The ultimate cut is where it's at, guys. Don't ever watch the theatrical cut. And then I sat and watched Man of Steel, my personal cut of it as well. I'm a big Superman fan, of course you guys know that, but Man of Steel, there were quite a few things that I had issues with. I'm not a big fan of that film. Luckily, I was able to take some bad parts out and make it to where, for me, it's a watchable movie, so I watched that too. And then I caught up and watched a couple Justice League animated episodes a few days ago, so get myself psyched up for Justice League. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, guys. I'm hopeful. I don't want to go into it blindly, and I don't want to get my hopes up too much, but I'm looking for a decent film, and it's Joss Whedon, so I'm really hoping that it pans out. Speaking of DC Comics, while I was on hiatus these last couple days because of my voice, as you can tell, I'm not quite 100% yet, but I really want to get a podcast out. So I sat down, watched some DC movies, DC TV shows, and caught up on the Arrowverse, guys. This week's episodes, I gotta say, have been pretty good. Supergirl was great, Flash was great, and a show that I've not been a fan of, DC's Legends of Tomorrow, I'm actually becoming a fan of. It's a fun show. I wasn't a fan of the first two seasons. This season, I figured I'd give it another chance, and so far, it's just fun, goofy, and I gotta say, I'm kind of into it, so I'm gonna add that to my regular block of TV shows. I haven't watched Arrow this week yet, but so far, the Arrowverse is A-okay. I love also how, too, they're dropping all these Easter eggs lately. A couple weeks ago, you had in Arrow, they dropped the name Bruce Wayne. And in this week's episode of Supergirl, they dropped the name Chloe, a, quote, friend of Clark's, which is referencing Smallville. And then if you haven't seen DC's Legends Tomorrow, there's a spoiler, guys. Cover your ears for like 10 seconds. They mentioned Themyscira, where they dropped off Helena Troy in the island full of women, Themyscira. So, a bunch of Easter eggs the show's doing lately, and I'm loving it. It's really good. Arrowverse, back on track. I'm loving everything we're doing. I'm excited for the crossover next week, too. I think it's next weekend or the weekend after. They're doing the big crossover. So, that'll be fun, and I'll be sure to talk about that when that comes about, guys. Now, speaking of things I need to get off my chest, aside from this blasted cold, is I haven't watched the mid-season finale of Star Trek Discovery. And honestly, guys, I don't think I'm going to. I started the show, just to check it out, and I chugged along, and I know I got to literally the last episode of this year, and I have no interest in watching it. You know me, I'm a Star Wars guy, not a Star Trek guy, although I do love the recent movies, the Kelvin timeline, along with the comic books that take place in that timeline too, but I don't think Star Trek Discovery is a bad show, but it's just not my cup of tea. I watch so much TV. I gotta pick and choose. If there's a show I'm not just clamoring to watch every week, I really try not to watch it because there's so many other shows that I love to watch. And Star Trek Discovery, well, I think it's okay. I think it's a fine show to watch. It's just not my cup of tea, so I think I'm giving up on it, guys. But if you think I should watch that finale to, get a big surprise and it's worth continuing, let me know. Hit me up on the social media group or on the Gmail account. And maybe if enough people reach out to me, I might try and finish it. Okay, so getting to the actual show today, I'm going to run down a couple of news stories that happened in the last couple of days. And if I have time at the end, I'm going to run down a couple of comic book reviews of comic books that I read yesterday that I really enjoyed. So sit back, guys, and let's get to it. First news story of today. It was announced a couple of days ago that Warner Brothers is moving the release date of Wonder Woman 2 up by 6 weeks. It's going to be on November 1st as opposed to the previously announced December 13th, 2019. Now the shift moves the film away from Lucasfilm's Episode 9, which will be directed by J.J. Abrams. That film is set to come out December 20th, 2019. As of right now, Wonder Woman 2 is set to star Gal Gadot as she reprises her role as Wonder Woman. The first Wonder Woman film earned $821 million worldwide, becoming the 7th highest grossing releasing film of 2017 as of yet. I'm afraid it might be knocked down a couple pegs after the final tallies for Thor Ragnarok, Justice League, and Star Wars The Last Jedi come out, but we'll wait and see, guys. But nonetheless, I don't think anyone was really surprised about this. When Wonder Woman set its release date, it was fine. And then Lucasfilm and Disney set out their release date for Episode 9, which was literally right on top of Wonder Woman 2. And the whole world knew that Wonder Woman 2 was going to move. Star Wars is a juggernaut. It destroys everything in its path, no matter what kind of film it is, especially an episodic film, an Episode 9 that finishes off this new trilogy, that finishes off the story, that finishes off these new characters and their arc, and hopefully something that's very satisfying, which J.J. Abrams, I totally trust him with the film. I'm not worried about it at all, but everyone knew Wonder Woman was going to move. Allegedly, I think Patty Jenkins is coming back to direct Wonder Woman 2 as well, so that's a smart move. Smart move moving it. I think I'm okay with this. Perfectly fine. Gives plenty of room to make a decent amount of money for Wonder Woman 2. So we all knew it was going to happen, guys, and there it is. Next up, Sony Pictures is looking to expand their Spider-Man-less cinematic universe. It's reported by The Hollywood Reporter that they are looking to bring Morbius the Living Vampire into his own movie. The character was created in 1971 and is in the first issue of Amazing Spider-Man that was not written by Stan Lee, issue 101. Morbius is Dr. Michael Morbius, who is a scientist who attempts to cure himself of a rare blood disease before left with all the traits of a vampire: super strength, bloodlust, fangs, etc. The character rode the 70s horror boom and went on to be featured in Marvel titles such as Vampire Tales, Adventure into Fear, and eventually his own book, Morbius the Living Vampire, in 1992. Guys, do I sound as bad as I think I sound? Because I feel like I sound really bad talking, but I'm powering through, guys. I apologize for this episode if it sounds like crap. I'm really trying to get through, or maybe this is an improvement on my voice and it sounds like a sexy, cool radio voice, in which case maybe I'll try to get sick more often. We'll see. But back to Sony and their Spider-Man-less verse. Now, they've already got Venom in production starring Tom Hardy, and Spider-Man, as of right now, is in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And according to Kevin Feige, Marvel, Venom is not going to be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that we know of. So it stands to say that Morbius, along with the Black Cat Silver Sable film that Sony is doing, is not going to be part of the cinematic universe at Marvel. So needless to say, we're having all these supporting Spider-Man characters in their own universe without Spider-Man, which honestly I think is a mistake. The reason their supporting characters are so good is because of the way they interact with Spider-Man. So if you don't have Spider-Man in the Venom movie, at least as a cameo, I don't see how it works. I mean, Venom is cool, and I think you could do it in a way that would be cool. Like I said, I'm a fan of the Flash Thompson Venom. He doesn't need Spider-Man. The Eddie Brock Spider-Man, his whole origin story is involved with not only Spider-Man, but also Peter Parker. So I don't see how you can have it without them. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe Tom Holland and Spider-Man are going to be in this film or in these other films. I don't know, but Morbius the Living Vampire, I know him best from the 90s Spider-Man animated series. That's where I got to know the character. Kind of a tortured soul, I guess, so it's the vampire persona, if you're Anne Rice. Nevertheless, he's more of a confused character than an actual villain. So I see how this could work. I see what angle they could go with this. But I'm still not excited about it. Like I said, Sony Pictures, I know they want a cinematic universe, just like every other studio wants a successful cinematic universe. I talked about this a couple days ago, how Marvel's really the only one that's had success with it, so everyone else is getting tired of cinematic universes because they're all failing, minus Marvel. So really, I don't care about this film. I mean, until I see Venom and see how that goes and how they're going to do this without Spider-Man or minimal Spider-Man, I really don't care about it. Morbius, the character, I see it could be interesting, but until I see what Sony is cooking up or what they've got planned, I can't get excited about anything they're doing until whether I know Spider-Man is or isn't in it, and just what direction they're going to go if he isn't. So I can also see their whole Sony universe getting thrown off track too if Venom doesn't perform well, much like how at Universal The Mummy didn't perform well, so all the other 4 films that they were planning to do in their dark universe was thrown off track. I can see that happening too, but Venom is a strong character. I will give him that, but we'll wait and see. They got a great cast with Michelle Williams and Tom Hardy. It all depends on how they're going to shape it, guys. I mean, that's really what it is. It comes down to the storytelling and execution, and we'll just have to wait and see. I can't get excited about this Sony universe until I see what direction it's going to go. And the last story of today, guys, we are chugging right along here. Mark Millar has announced that he is doing a new Kick-Ass #1. However, this story is not going to star the normal Kick-Ass character, Dave Lizinski, as it has in the past. It looks like Mark Millar and Joe Romana Jr. are going to start off the Kick-Ass comic with a black female Army veteran named Patience Lee. When asked about this, Millar said, quote, "The original 4 volumes of Kick-Ass got tied up a couple years ago, and this is a brand new character." He told Entertainment Weekly, quote, "I've always wanted to do what Doctor Who or The Flash does and create a legacy character. Kick-Ass being designed just for that. The idea is that he inspires other people to what he did, just putting on a costume and cleaning up their neighborhood, and that's what happens here. I wanted to shake up the setting as well and shifted the whole thing to New Mexico. The lead is a woman this time, a mother in her early 30s and 2 young kids. She's also a military vet who came home to find her life in a completely different setting from the way it was when she left for Afghanistan. So the actual dynamic of the book is really different, but it's the same. The flavor is identical. Kick-Ass #1 will come out February 24th, 2018 and marks the 10-year anniversary of the Kick-Ass series. Now, I actually remember back in 2008 when Kick-Ass came out, I was going to my local comic store, and the guy who ran it, Jason, said that I should check out Kick-Ass. I'm like, okay. So I picked up, I think it was on issue 2 or 3 at that time. And after that first issue, I got into the character of Dave Lizinski because really, he is the quintessential comic book fan. You know, he likes comic books, he likes sci-fi, he, watches sitcoms, and, I think myself, of course, I can definitely see myself in this character. Kick-Ass 2 was good. I liked Hit Girl, the series. Kick-Ass 3 was, kind of iffy for me, but like Mark Millar said, it kind of tied everything up together. Now, going over to the movies, I thought the first Kick-Ass movie was good. I enjoyed the second Kick-Ass movie. It was really a blend of the Hit Girl miniseries and Kick-Ass 2 from the comics, but I enjoyed it for what it was. Not as good as the first one, but again, I still enjoyed it. I hope they would do a Kick-Ass 3 to tie everything up, but Kick-Ass 2, the movie, was different from what the comic book was, so they would have to change quite a few things to continue on that story. So I can see why they didn't. Of course, financially didn't do that well too, so we might not get a Kick-Ass 3. This, I want to say, surprises me, but it really doesn't. Mark Millar, as I've said, one of my top writers probably ever. Anything he does, no matter what it is, I'm always going to give a chance. And when he signed the deal with Netflix, I thought of all the properties that could be turned into TV shows and movies. But so far, all we've gotten recently from him is new comic books. We got the Magic Order that they were announced, I believe, last week. Now we got a new Kick-Ass coming. As far as the shift of characters, awesome. I don't think you can really have a flavor that is identical because you're changing the character. I mean, like I said, Dave Lizinski is a nerd like all of us who read comic books. So going from that to a middle-aged 30-year-old war veteran with kids, unless she reads comic books, I don't see how the flavor can be identical. But at the same time, don't give me exactly what the other one was. This is a different character, completely different character, not a white teenage male from New York. This is a middle-aged black woman with kids living in New Mexico. Completely different setting, and honestly, I'm excited about it. I'm excited about something different. Millar is a good storyteller, so I know whatever he's cooked up is going to be at least halfway decent, if not better. I trust him. This is his property. It's, like he said, his legacy property. It's what he will probably be known for most in his life. So I think he's going to treat it with a lot of care. I know he's got a lot of ideas. So honestly, I'm excited for it. Millar has never let me down. I don't think he's going to let me down now. So I'm excited to see what this story is going to bring, what kind of challenges Patience Lee is going to have. And let's get to it, guys, because Mark Millar, genius. Well, that's it as far as the regular stories for today, guys. Now, I do have a couple minutes here, so I want to run down a couple comics that I read yesterday and kind of give you my recommendations. First up, we got Defenders number 7. Brian Michael Bendis is not out of Marvel yet. He's still finishing up a couple. And in this one, we see our team run into Elektra. Iron Fist versus Elektra, a much better battle than we got on the Defenders Netflix series. I'll tell you that. The artwork by Marquez has been phenomenal. A lot of good full-page splashes in this one. Just a really good, enjoyable book. Of course, it's Bendis, so the dialogue is sharp and witty and just overall enjoyable. They're still fighting crime on the streets, trying to get rid of Diamondback, and Elektra might know a thing or two. But overall, a really enjoyable book, guys. If you're not reading this, it's really great. So check that out before Bendis is gone. Next up, Batman issue number 35. Actually, it's Batman issue number 800. That's right. In the Legacy issuing, this is the 800th issue of Batman. As we know, in the next couple months or within the year, we're going to get Action Comics number 1000, so be sure to grab that. Batman number 35, we see the continuation of the storyline with Catwoman versus Talia, and they're dueling each other, and they're talking about Batman as they do it, and Catwoman is talking about how she knows, even though she's going to marry Batman, she is always going to come second fiddle to his quest to take down crime. Talia challenges whether Catwoman is good enough to be Batman's equal. And then on a side story, you also have Dick Grayson and Damian sitting outside talking about how they feel that Batman's decision to marry Catwoman is the first selfish thing he's really done since his parents were murdered. How it's about him wanting to be happy in his life. I call that back to maybe something that happened a while ago when Batman ran into his dad in a previous timeline, and his dad told him to be happy and don't be Batman. While I think he can't give up being Batman, I think he can be a little more happy, so I think it feeds into that storyline. But overall, really enjoyable issue, some great dialogue between the characters and character analysis of Bruce Wayne, aka Batman. And the final comic I recommend to check out is Super Sons number 10. If you guys aren't reading this, it is a lot of fun. Of course, you have Jonathan Kent and Damian Wayne, Superboy and Robin, teaming up for their own adventures. It's a really fun book to read. It's not super serious. It's just a lot of fun to see these two interact with each other, mainly because they're so different. And in this issue, Clark and Bruce step in and give John and Damian their own Fortress of Attitude, as it's called. A place where they can do their own thing, a place where they can operate and hang out with each other. Again, just a fun issue. The wisecracks and the dialogue going back and forth is a lot of fun. I'm really loving this comic book. I'm loving John Kent as Superboy. Even though I miss my Connor Kent that I grew up with, John Kent is great. And of course, Damian Wayne in this setting is great. He's evolved as a character. He's no longer a little shit that he was when he first came on the scene. He's really cool. Again, I like seeing him interact with Superboy. Overall, just a fun book. Go ahead and check that out, guys. And that's going to be it for me today. So, tomorrow, I may or may not do a show. First off, it's going to depend on how my voice is. But also, it's like International Geek Day tomorrow. Okay, guys? We got Justice League that technically comes out tomorrow, even though it's coming out tonight. Then we have Punisher on Netflix. And then we have Star Wars Battlefront 2. It's like the trifecta of geekdom. You got a movie coming out, a video game coming out, and a TV show coming out. I'm going to go see Justice League tomorrow. I'm going to try to get a review up on that either Saturday night or Sunday. And then, of course, since I have the day off tomorrow, I'm going to watch some Punisher before I go see Justice League. I'm going to try to review that on Monday, guys. So try to get through Punisher this weekend like I will. And we'll talk about it on Monday. I'll share my thoughts on that. And then I'm not much of a gamer, but I might check out Star Wars Battlefront 2. See if I can find someone who is playing it. See what they think. I always like to go on YouTube and watch the story points of the video games, to say the least. Because really that's what's important to me, is the storylines. And this game looks cool. It looks awesome. People are saying positive things about it. So I'm happy to do that. So, alright guys, that is it for me. I do apologize for my voice today. I know I sound horrible. Hopefully it'll be better tomorrow or on Monday. And that's it. So, hit me up, dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com. What do you think about the new Kikc-Ass? What do you think about Morbius? What do you think about my comic picks? Let me know. Hit me up on the Facebook group or on Twitter. And you can find me personally, Slim Dayspring 12 on Twitter and Instagram. And that's it, guys. So until next time, may the Force be with us all.